Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Friday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. The Lakers get thumped in Game 2 in San Francisco. Can Anthony Davis bounce back for Game 3? That's next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, sometimes on Saturdays and Sundays, especially during these playoff runs, Andy. No matter how or where you get your podcast, it's always going to be free. It's never going to be behind a paywall. And Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go to see the show. Over 16,000 subscribers now on the channel, which we really appreciate. We appreciate everybody's support. And it'll be a great place on Friday, Andy, for Lakers fans to congregate, to come together and try to make each other feel better, because Game 2 did not go nearly as well as Game 1. That is my analysis right there. That's why I make the big money.
Yeah, 12700 loss to the Warriors. The game was actually going somewhat well in the first quarter. The Lakers finished ahead, although it did take them a while to actually start getting their offense going. Second quarter, the wheels started to get a little bit wobbly. Third quarter, the wheels fell off and rolled in four separate directions out of Chase 1. And they are still rolling in four separate directions across San Francisco right now. That is just how badly it all fell apart for the Lakers once it
Go get your wheels, Lakers. Go claim them before you leave town.
You know what? Leave them there. You don't need those wheels anymore. Buy some new wheels, Genie Bus, plunk down the cash. It's worth it in the long run.
You know, we talked on Thursday's show about what kind of effort the Lakers were like, because they were genuinely shameful in Game 2 of the Memphis series after winning Game 1. It was, very similar situation. You take Game 1 on the road against a really good team that's played well at home, and you come out, and what kind of performance are you going to get in Game 2? And the Lakers were indifferent in that Game 2 against Memphis. I don't think that was the problem necessarily in San Francisco on Thursday, but they got thoroughly outplayed, and they certainly didn't look good. It's hard to argue that part.
No, it's interesting. I actually tweeted out at Cam Brothers. I can't tell for sure if the Lakers came out flat in this game or not, but I'm positive that they got frazzled too easily and too early in this game. And that was even before Lisa Salters on the ESPN broadcast noted that Darvin Ham at halftime told it that he thought the team got way too caught up in the whistles, the ones against them, the ones that weren't coming for them, that they spent a lot of time complaining, and that they weren't playing with force, in part because he thought they just lost their focus, frankly, complaining. And that's what it seemed a lot like for me. It seemed like that in particular for Anthony Davis, who we're going to get into a lot in this game, because he just was not particularly good on either side of the ball. Very disappointing coming off a monster Game 1. But AD had two early fouls, or by maybe halfway through the second quarter, he'd picked up his second. I thought the first two calls on him, frankly, were BS. I thought they were bad calls against him. One of them, he was on the ground trying to get a ball to basically create a jump ball situation, and he got called for a foul for it. The first one, it looked like basically phantom contact. Even Jeff Van Gundy during the broadcast said, I don't see a foul there at all. And then the third one that he picked up in the second half, I think was 50-50 at best. But AD spent a lot of that game, to me, playing like a guy hyper paranoid and self-conscious about the way the game was getting called, and very concerned that he was going to pick up a second foul, a third foul. And by the way, I am not saying this to excuse Anthony Davis because he has to react better than that. I'm saying I think that actually was one of, not the only, but one of the factors going on with AD. Also, too, and I'll just address this one, I guess, elephant in the room just because I love a good conspiracy theory. They're always fun. One of the referees tonight was Eric Lewis. And Eric Lewis, for those who don't remember the name instantly, though it seemed like a lot of Laker fans did, he's the guy that made the no call in that Boston game that eventually went to overtime. You may remember LeBron's absolutely apoplectic reaction to this. Patrick Beverley gave the referees the camera to look at before overtime began. And
that was Pat Beverley's great contribution to Lakers history.
Right.
Like years from now, that's when people will remember Pat Beverley for and pull up the things. That's what they're going to do.
Maybe not. If the Lakers, we'll discuss this, if not today, sometime next week. If the Lakers go on to win a championship, Patrick Beverley may be remembered even more because he and Russell Westbrook both want rings. They've been on the record with this.
If he gets one, Pat Beverley, it should be for that maneuver with the photographer's camera, much more than his actual play.
That'll be on the ring.
Right. Like that's his Jason of Beverly Hills will somehow etch that moment in diamonds or something.
That would be great. But Eric Lewis being in this game perked up the ears of a lot of Laker fans, had their radar going. I'm not, and it turns out Eric Lewis, at least according to the internet, I have no idea if this is true or not, but according to the internet, has ties to Boston. His family's a bunch of Celtics fans, etc. I'm not going to say that Eric Lewis is a corrupt referee calling games against the Lakers because he hates the Lakers. That's a bridge too far without any definitive proof. What I am willing to say is I'm not convinced he's a great referee.
I'm
comfortable saying that.
I am a
and it's a whole crew. It's a whole crew.
Yeah,
but
I am a person who believes that NBA officiating is basically the most impossible job on the planet. Like it just is impossible to get right. And we have way too many angles and all these other things. And I don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. But what I will say is the Lakers did not shoot a free throw in this game until about a minute left in the first half. We talked for Thursday. One of the things that you look at as a Lakers fan, as a Warriors fan, it's like what's going to change? And you say to yourself, Warriors fans were. You use the word apoplectic to describe LeBron's reaction. They were apoplectic at the free throw discrepancy in game one between the two teams. And we said to ourselves, well, look, the Lakers spend much more time at the basket. They do. They're going to probably shoot more free throws in every game. There's going to be a big disparity in every game. It's just a matter of how big. Lakers had 0 in the first. So whether that's the officiating, whether that's the Lakers, it was a clear sign that they were struggling and the offense was not operating in the way that it is meant to. And Andy, when the Lakers do not get to the line, we've seen this. You talked about them being kind of discombobulated, being, complaining too much or whatever. When they don't get to the line, this sometimes happens where they're drawn out of their game offensively and they just don't have good answers. And I think that was part of the problem the first half on Thursday. Yeah,
and look, I as much as I'm having fun with this stuff and venting a little bit as a Laker.
No, he's clearly on the take. There's no question. I'm not trying to gloss over the fact that Eric Lewis is obviously a corrupt, indecent man.
Right. No. We by the end of this podcast,
that's segment 3. I think we're just saving that.
I would say by the end of this podcast, over the next 20-ish or so minutes, we're going to blow the lid off this entire conspiracy. Yeah. The Lakers did not lose this game because of the refereeing. They lost this game because they did not play very well. I do think the way the game was called affected the Lakers, but it is far more onus on the Lakers to adjust to this rather than hope that Eric Lewis and company come to see the light. Like it's the responsibility falls on them. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I would agree. Let's get into the Golden State, to their credit, changed up some stuff. They had a change in their starting lineup. They had a change in their 3-point shooting. They actually managed to make it better, despite, even though they did pretty well with it in game one. But plenty to unpack in this one, so we'll get to it next.
Locked On Lakers brought to you by eBay Motors. And for a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to be just right. And the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can make sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know whether the part will fit or get your money back. And just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, tons of parts, that is a lot of parts, you will be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Live look at every Lakers fan after that first segment, wondering about Eric Lewis and the refereeing. It is interesting to just think about, those disparities and what happens now for Game 3. Just because, Golden State, it wasn't just they kept the Lakers off the line. It wasn't just like they really did operate differently. They, Steph had the ball in his hands a lot more. Jermichael Green starting in place of Kevon Looney, really, I guess in part because Looney was sick, but I wonder if they'll just keep doing that, because
there had been some talk about Golden State possibly going small in this game.
And the reasoning is, as well as Looney played, is when you have Draymond and Looney on the floor at the same time, the Lakers can ignore two people, and it lets Anthony Davis really just go to town defensively. You saw on Thursday, he was pulled much, much higher out on the floor and was often caught in that kind of tweener space between, do I close out on the 3-point shooter or do I drop back a little bit more? And it was very effective for Golden State. So they really, they talk about the playoffs being, the adjustments, the onus is on the team that loses game one to come back in game two and try some different stuff. And certainly Golden State did, and it worked real well. Yeah,
I mean, Klay Thompson was absolutely unconscious in this game. 8 of 11 from behind the arc, had 30 points. Like the Lakers' nightmares are just going to be of Klay Thompson just casually owning them in this game. Nobody was particularly successful marking him. Austin Reaves often had the assignment. Reaves on both ends of the ball, frankly, was not very good tonight. He had company in this game.
Oh, he was terrible.
As far as guys not playing well, but he was quite bad.
I thought, because so much of this series is predicated on, we've talked about legs and energy and this and that and whatever, and why it was so important for the Lakers to take game one, because they were never going to have a sort of freshness advantage, a rest advantage on Golden State that would be bigger than the one that they had going into the first game. And a lot of this series is going to be decided based on who hits the wall first. And at least on Thursday, Reaves looked really heavy-legged. His own shots, I think he had 1-3 in the third quarter, I think, or something like that. But generally speaking, his shots were short, especially early, and he really struggled to keep up with Klay, to get around screens the times he was marking Steph, whatever it was. He struggled. And, I think one thing we can all agree on is Austin Reaves doesn't dog it through games. So I chalked up a lot of that to just legs, fatigue. And that can happen even in game two.
He is 3 of 11 from the field for 7 points, just 2 assists against 2 turnovers. I mean, he's out of sorts in this game. And he in particular is somebody that is going to have to find adjustments if the whistles aren't coming, because a lot of what can separate Austin Reaves playing badly versus Austin Reaves playing fine versus Austin Reaves crushing it is how many trips he can get to the line, how many fouls he can draw. And this was not a game where he got any. And then you mentioned Steph on the ball. Like, there's going to be a lot of focus on the Warriors shooting and Klay, but to me, the story was Steph Curry's ball handling. Like, he was as like a one-man dribbling gang, just scrambling the Lakers defense. They could not keep up with what he was doing. And, you know, it's easy to forget this because Steph is the greatest shooter to ever live, and it's not even close. The guy has an insane handle, and he is a great passer. You know, I mean, he's become underrated as a point guard, I think, just because everyone understandably focuses on the shooting, but he is amazing at just keeping his dribble alive till he finds what he wants. And it's going to be difficult to adjust to that, you know, if they keep that strategy. Like, when I noted this on Twitter, someone said to me, you know, they need to aggressively trap more, try to get the ball out of his hands.
Cannot do that.
This is what I responded. You know, I'm sure they'll try, but it's easier said than done. You know, again, Curry's got an incredible handle. He's a great passer. And assuming they're still playing small, if you do that, that leaves either a shooter wide open, like a designated shooter, or Draymond, who is as good of a passer and a relocator as anybody in the league.
The Warriors have made a long history of destroying teams who do that. Like, that is how they're built. That is how they're predicated on that kind of thing. You can't do it. There are moments maybe you could do it, sort of catch them by something, or, you know, the right lineups out, the right, whatever it might be. But as a consistent strategy, you are begging to be torn apart defensively once you start trying to trap Steph. It just doesn't work.
He had 12 assists in this game, and if you count possessions where what he did at the top directly led to the pass that led to the basket, I mean, you're talking about like 20 or 25 baskets manufactured. I mean, he was masterful, and he still managed to have 20 points along the way. I mean, he was incredible in this game.
The Warriors are good. It's like, and they're particularly good in their own building. And so, you know, I think, you know, as a Lakers fan, you hope, Steph's going to have a game or two where he goes nuclear, you know, at least a game or two where he kind of goes nuclear. You hope not nuclear like game 7 against the Kings. You know, it goes for 50.
I'll tell you, man, and it's in its own right. I think what he did tonight, it may not be 50 points, but it was on the level of just basketball impressiveness. What he did tonight was incredible.
He was so good. Klay is going to have at least a game where he blows up from 3 and it all just looks perfect and that kind of stuff. And then, that happened. And, the hope is, and that's what makes Golden State so challenging, is that you can, they didn't tonight, but you can do everything correctly and still lose possessions and still lose minutes at a time when they're just right on their game, or Steph is hitting shots or Klay is hitting shots. Like, you don't have to do anything wrong for a team to go on an 11-2 run. And that can be really challenging. And obviously on a night where you aren't doing everything right, it gets that much easier. But you have to factor in 2 or 3 games where the shooting and the performances from Klay and Steph are going to be really, really good, and there's not much you can do about it. And what you hope is either you win enough of the other games, or maybe you overcome it and you're playing so well yourself that it doesn't matter that Klay is 8 of 11 or 7. And the Lakers, we kind of always go back to the same formula, Andy, about what helps them survive and what makes it work. And 10 of 17 from the free throw line. First of all, 17 is way too low, and 10 is not very good. And a lot of that's coming from guys, 4 free throws from Tristan Thompson, 4 free throws from Max Christie. So if you take away guys who shouldn't be playing unless things have gone really, really poorly, the rest of the Lakers took 9 free throws. So that ain't going to get it done.
There's at least a 50-50 chance Tristan Thompson has no idea who Max Christie is.
Nope. Thinks a mop kid won a promo contest or something like that.
Yeah.
He's like, that kid's pretty good. Good for him. You go the Lakers, again, under 30% from 3-point range. And some of that is, garbage time at the end, but not all of it.
I mean, LeBron hit 3, including one that was like a buzzer beating bank job 3, which, fine.
Yeah.
But, and Rui Hachimura had a terrific game tonight. 21 points off the bench, 4 of 6 from behind the arc, 5 rebounds. This is something also, too, you saw this in this game that I just love about Rui. I've mentioned this before. He's really good at just quick decisions when he gets the ball, whether he's going to either shoot, put the ball on the deck to put up a shot, or move the ball. The guy does not screw around when he has it. Yeah. And it really stood out tonight in a game where I think, other than maybe LeBron, maybe D'Lo in his own right, who I thought was not great, but not bad either. I thought he was fine. I thought a lot of the team looked indecisive because of what Golden State was doing. Rui really stood out in the way that he just made fast decisions. And that's something you have to do against a smart team.
It's an interesting dynamic because, Hachimura, when a guy like Looney doesn't play as much and they're not going with the lineups that they did, you can play Rui a little bit more, but, and against smaller teams, it is harder for him to do the kind of running and challenge shots and get around screens and do it. It's not as easy for him. So, he wasn't the reason they lost, but it's a challenge. And so it's a long series. There's no way this wasn't going to be, if the Lakers are going to win this, it wasn't going to be in 5 games, probably wasn't going to be in 6. So let's talk a little bit more about AD because at the end of this, he's still got to be better. There is no question about that. Quick reminder, Lakers playing the Warriors in Game 3. That's 5:30 on Saturday night. Game 3, the team that goes on to win Game 3 usually goes on to win the series. You can catch every moment of that game in the hometown broadcast for the Lakers on Sirius XM. That's the Sirius XM app. Search Lakers. So AD's got to be better. He's got to be better. Got to be better.
Yeah. He had a different defender on him this time with Draymond Green. And, we talked before, when we were previewing the series with Cyrus and Kylan about the specific challenge that Kevon Looney offers when AD is going to be often attached to Looney just because those extra possessions he can get on the offensive glass, and you don't want to give Golden State more chances to score. And, Looney had, I think, 23 rebounds in Game 1 and maybe 7 or 8 on the offensive glass. So that is a legit challenge in and of itself. But Looney is not going to be able to, and we made this very clear when we talked about this, he's not going to be able to contain Anthony Davis defensively. That's not the type of defensive player that Kevon Looney is. Draymond Green, however, is somebody that can defend Anthony Davis. And you saw in this game the way he was preventing AD from getting to spots that he wanted. He was getting under AD. He's much more physical in an effective defensive way. And honestly, again, combined with the other stuff I talked about earlier, where I think AD became hyper conscious of not picking up fouls, I think you combine that with a completely different look in Draymond Green, and AD, I don't think, reacted well at all to the new setting and the new scenario. And like you said, this team is going to go as far ultimately as Anthony Davis performs. There's no way around it. If Anthony Davis is not really good the majority of the time, more so than any other player on this team, Lakers ain't going anywhere. And I thought as the game went along, the frustrations AD was feeling offensively. He said after the game that he thought he was getting the same shots he normally gets, and he didn't think anything was different. I strongly beg to differ. But I thought as the game went along, that frustration offensively was affecting him defensively as well. This is the first game I can recall in the playoffs where AD, if nothing else, did not feel like a factor defensively. And that really stands out because against Memphis, even the games where the offense wasn't there, dude was a monster defensively. That was not the case tonight at all.
I think, some of it, I agree with like kind of the cause and effect there in terms of it pulling him out of his game defensively. I think that's part of it. I do think Golden State did a much better job putting him in no man's land or forcing him into situations. It was just too easy for him defensively in game one. And I think I'm sure that I'm sure there's that was a lot of the conversation, with Steve Kerr and the rest of his staff. Like, it's just, they got to make it harder for AD to control. Now, he's still got to be better. It's just he's got to be better. And, one of the things that separates the most elite players is like the ability to do it again and again and again and again. And, that it's a prove it game. We've done this 1,000 times this year. It's another prove it game, playoff level, okay. Second round of the playoffs, prove it game. Like the goalpost is always going to move a little bit. Like if you want to be seen as one of the, the small handful of elite players in the league, then when you start to show your ability to do that, people are just going to kind of push that goalpost out a little bit more and make you do it again and push it out again, make you do it again until, finally you reach a place where it can't go any farther. But he's not there yet. So Saturday becomes a big game.
Look, I've said this many times with Kobe. For a lot of people, Kobe had to win his fourth championship to win his first, because the first three attached to Shaq, and Shaq winning 3 straight finals MVPs. It, I think, completely inaccurately for a lot of people discounted what Kobe brought to those championships. I've never agreed with this, but that happened. And again, Kobe winning that 4th and that 5th, he was the first to admit how much it mattered to him to win 2 without Shaq, to win 1 more than Shaq ever won. Like, Kobe should not have needed to prove that for anybody who was watching the game with the slightest bit of either objectivity or just you're paying attention. But my point in bringing this up is if Kobe's going to go through that, then damn sure Anthony Davis will. And fair or not, this is what's going to happen. But in this particular case for the Lakers, it is somewhat fair because this has to happen or else they can't win a championship. They just can't.
I agree with you. And, I think that the real big concern is always, when you win a playoff, the emotional swings of, watching it as a fan, the emotional swings in a playoff series, particularly one where, like first round against an 8 seed, you're like, they lose the game. It's like, you can get all huffy because you never know, like, but like in the back of your mind, you're like, we're not really worried about this. But like I don't care how confident you are in the Lakers. Like if you are a reasonably objective, just like for a moment about what this series probably looks like, you're like, yeah, Golden State can beat the Lakers. I think the Lakers are going to win, but Golden State is absolutely capable. Steph, Klay, Dre, whatever, they're capable of winning. That's what makes games like this so nerve-wracking. So I'm sure Golden State, they're thinking, fans from, okay, did the Lakers have something that we're not going to be able to counter? Golden State comes back and wins this game 2 by 27. Now, as a Laker fan, and you hope in the Lakers locker room they have something in mind to make it so what we saw on Thursday doesn't become sort of the formula for the series the Lakers can't fight back for. But that's what the Lakers have to show on Saturday, is they've got a response to what Golden State did on Thursday.
Well, obviously there's going to be adjustments. Darvin Ham, all the players talked about that afterwards. The playoffs are a series of adjustments and adjusting to the adjustments. But one adjustment that does have to happen in this game is Anthony Davis has to come out with an attitude and action of, yeah, Draymond Green is one of the best defenders of the last decade. I don't give an F. I'm Anthony Davis, and there's not a goddamn thing you can do about it. Like, he needs to come out playing like that, forcing the issue. Like, he really, and it's not always going to work. And, maybe he picks up an offensive foul doing that, but he needs to be dictating the terms of that matchup with Draymond. If that's what it remains, he needs to be at least more forcefully looking to dictate it than it seemed like he did in this game. Just has to.
Yeah, 100% agree. Locked On Lakers on YouTube, Andy, is where people can go to see the show. They can participate on the chat, the chat board, the comments section, and they can really, they can complain as much as they want about what they saw on Thursday, and I suspect they will. But they will also be getting excited and jazzed up for Saturday's game. It is a massive Game 3. I don't want to say it's going to be the one that determines the series, but statistically, Game 3 is the one that determines the series. If it's tied 1-1, Lakers do not want to give up a hard-fought home court advantage that they won over these first two games. And it's important to remember, Andy, they did what they needed to do. They did what they wanted to do, which was win a game in Golden State. They won a game on that floor. This was a good start to the series.
Look, if you want to find a spin for the debacle that was tonight, LeBron and AD got extra rest you did not anticipate.
Yes. Oh, I meant to say something about this. I was texting a friend, guys, one of our friends who likes to text during games, and he was a diehard Laker fan. And I was like, I hope the Lakers are either down by 7 by the end of the third, like they rally, or down by 30, because anything in between, it's like, do we keep guys in? Do we not? It was more close to the down by 30 part, and Darvin sat everyone, which is fine. I would agree, much better than playing in the fourth quarter. So I was actually happy about that. Anyway, Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go to see the show. We will be back, obviously, with a mini cast on Saturday night after Game 3. So make sure you check that out for the daily listeners, the everydayers. That'll be there for you Saturday night and into Sunday. So we'll see everybody on Sunday.